Tonight, laid to rest, the funeral of murdered schoolgirl Hope Gordon takes place in Livingston. The 6-year-old in a coffin decorated with her favourite TV characters. Also making the headlines, more on the deaths of the 2 Scots killed in their home in a quiet French village. It's hoped a post-mortem will provide answers. Hundreds of farmers from across the country returned to London to continue their fight against inheritance tax changes. And Queen's Park are in discoland, while Rangers are left reeling from a Scottish Cup shocker.
My voice is kind of away for the singing and dancing after the game, and as I said, it's moments like that you need to cherish in football.
Yeah, it's not good enough. It's simple as that. It's not good enough. We've got to be competing for these trophies.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. Family and friends of the murdered schoolgirl Hope Gordon have gathered for her funeral in Livingston. Outside the private service, people lined the streets to show their support. The 6-year-old was found dead alongside her father last month at his house in West Calder. Detectives believe he took his own life after killing her. Here's our senior reporter, Gordon Cree.
The 6-year-old's family aren't calling this a funeral, but instead refer to Hope's Day, a celebration of her short life. Loaded on to a horse-drawn carriage, Hope's coffin was decorated with images from the TV series Paw Patrol, one of her favourites, while a character from it, Chase, was part of the procession, and his colours were on the horses' headdresses. Flowers in the funeral car came from Hope's school, Toronto Primary, whose head teacher had described her as bright, bubbly and affectionate. As the cortege began, members of the local community in Livingston paid their respects. It's 2 weeks since Hope was found dead at her father's house in West Calder. A post-mortem revealed she'd been murdered. 36-year-old Mark Gordon's body was found too. Police are not looking for anyone else in connection with the deaths. Details of the service for Hope, which took place here, are being kept private at the request of her family. All of today's arrangements have been made possible after a family friend launched a fundraiser which brought in more than £10,000. In a tribute on that page, it described Hope as a vibrant and loving little girl known for her infectious smile, kind spirit and deep love for animals. Today was described as Hope's final journey. It ended at Edinburgh Cemetery, where she's been laid to rest. A family friend saying Hope's life was tragically cut short, leaving a void in the hearts of her family and friends that can never be filled. Gordon Cree, STV News, Livingston.
5 days on from the discovery of a Scottish couple killed in their home in France, little is known about what caused their deaths. Andrew and Dawn Searle, who'd lived and worked in Edinburgh, were discovered at their property in the southwest of the country on Thursday. Well, our reporter Ollie Dickinson joins me now in the studio. Ollie, there's been a lot of speculation. Can you clear that up for us and tell us what we know?
Yeah, well, what we know is that a post-mortem was due to take place today. Authorities will likely now know the results of that, and we expect those to be released tomorrow. What we do know is that this has been described as a brutal scene, with specialists thrown in from Montpellier and Paris via helicopter to assist with the investigation.
And there have been CCTV pictures circulating. What do they show, Ollie?
They emerged over the weekend. They show Andrew Searle in a tobacconist in the town just before 6 o'clock on Wednesday. It's understood he bought some lottery tickets, and he can be seen buying a chocolate bar and having a pretty normal everyday chat with whoever it is behind the counter. It's hard to imagine, therefore, that the next day Andrew and Dawn would both be found dead. There have also been reports in France that Andrew was seen that day on the phone having what's been described as a pretty pretty heated conversation.
And presumably, Ollie, this has had quite an impact on the local community there.
Well, the couple live in a quiet area in an even quieter suburb of the town, Villefranche-de-Rouergue. Locals have described being left completely devastated and traumatised. Another has described them as exceptional people who were part of the town. There is a lot of discussion in the local area about what has happened. That picture will hopefully, for everyone involved, become a lot clearer tomorrow.
All right, Ollie, hopefully we'll find out more then. OK, thanks, Ollie. Farmers from across the country have descended on Westminster again as they continue their fight against inheritance tax changes. The sector has warned some farms will be put out of business by the proposals, which will see the introduction of a 20% tax rate on farms worth more than £1 million. Around 150,000 people have now signed a petition calling for the plans to be scrapped. Here's our Westminster correspondent, Paris Gertsianis.
It's become a familiar sight and sound. Once again, tractors circled Parliament Square, parked on Whitehall and blocked off Downing Street, so farmers could voice fury at inheritance tax changes they say will put many of them out of business.
This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. You know, there's farmers here today who are in their 90s, and I want to be one of those. And the rate we're going, I don't know if we will be. I just don't think we will be.
Since the first budget from the new Labour UK government in October, protests have been held at Westminster and around the country to drive home the message that new taxes could kill off the family farm. Today, that message was also heard inside, after a petition calling for a U-turn gained nearly 150,000 signatures, forcing a debate in Parliament's Westminster Hall.
Will the honourable gentleman do the right thing, represent his rural constituents and recognise that this ruinous policy will not only destroy family farms across the country, it'll put up food prices and worsen our national energy security? Do the right thing, challenge your own Chancellor and take some of your colleagues with you.
This has been turned into a political football and undermining the ability for us to actually, in clear-minded ways, speak about options and opportunities. And it's really sad the Shadow Secretary of State does not want to work in a manner that could get the best outcome for our farmers, and that's very sad.
Labour made it abundantly clear that they would not increase taxes on farmers. But just like the winter fuel payment to pensioners and national insurance rises on businesses, Labour didn't tell the truth.
This is a policy that penalises those that the government wants to protect while protecting those that they say they want to penalise. There is a need now for this whole policy to be paused and reconsidered.
Farming unions have also used the opportunity to lobby MPs, but say the ministers that hold the purse strings still aren't listening.
We need to get the Treasury in front of us. We need the Treasury to sit down and speak with all the four farming unions and get them to understand, the real detail of this, because the impacts are potentially terrible. As an industry, we will not let go on this. Via multiple means, we will keep the pressure on this. The four farming unions in the UK will stick together on this. We're very clear on that.
It's already been a long, hard winter of protest, but sure as spring, unless they get what they want, farmers will be back.
And Paris joins us now from Westminster. Paris, what difference are these protests making?
Well, Kellyanne, clearly the noise and the disruption keeps this on the agenda, but I have to say, politically, not much difference at all. There's no sign of a U-turn. You heard Andrew Connan, the new NFU Scotland president there, saying farmers can't get the meeting with Treasury ministers that they want. So if a compromise is being worked on, we don't know what it is. Now, farming unions say they don't want to disrupt ordinary people's lives with a blockade that could empty supermarket shelves, but they might need to take more radical action to build the political pressure on this.
OK, so what happens next then, Paris?
Well, the next flashpoint could come at the end of February. That's when the national NFU conference is held not far from here in Westminster. Last year, the same event was addressed by none other than the then Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. I wouldn't bet on Keir Starmer turning up. Whichever of his ministers draws the short straw, they're in for a rough reception. All
right, Paris, from Westminster, thank you very much. Scotland is facing a foster care crisis, according to a leading charity. Bernardos say the rate of children entering the care system is not matched by the level of loving homes to accommodate them. They say hundreds more are required to plug the gap. Well, Lewis Mickey has been speaking to one family who are encouraging others to make the same decision they did.
Sharon and Andrew know all about fostering. They've been foster carers for decades and have cared for more than 10 children, some short-term, others longer-term.
You know, I gave up a full-time job to do fostering, and I didn't know what I was leaving my work to do. I didn't know what I was going to be experiencing. But there's not one day that I have looked back and thought, I wish I hadn't done that, I wish I hadn't left my work.
Fertility issues prompted the couple to look at other options. They signed up with Bernardos and never looked back. And Sharon still recalls the first Christmas.
And I remember sitting at one of the coffee shops in Buchanan Street, and I had bags of stuff and I was crying, and this woman said to me, "Oh, Henny, you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm fine." I said, I'm not crying because I'm sad, I'm crying because I'm happy. I said, I've got wee kids living with me this year.
People like Sharon and Andrew are in short supply. Latest figures show the number of foster care approved households in Scotland is falling, with less new households being approved than in previous years.
Keep peddling, keep peddling, keep peddling.
The couple hope to inspire more people to become foster carers with their story. One boy who's been with them for the majority of the last 10 years, they say watching him grow is the best part of the job.
The wee guy that we've got just now, we've had him since he was 2, and we've seen him go to nursery school and progress, and he's in primary school now, and he's loving it.
You give a lot of yourself, and you need to give a lot of yourself. There's no two ways about it. You have got to invest yourself in these kids, but you certainly get a lot back.
The charity Bernardos say fostering in Scotland is in crisis, and as many as 500 more homes are needed.
Foster care has continued to decline year on year, and we really want to encourage everybody from all walks of life to make that first step, to inquire with Bernardos. What makes a good carer is having that time, that passion to care for a child, to want to be involved.
If someone said to you, "Oh, I'm actually thinking about potentially going and speaking to Bernardos and doing this as well," what would you say to them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in the first instance, yeah, go speak to them. There's no harm in that, yeah.
For everything that we've given the kids, they've given us as much back, you know. Given us something that I couldn't have had myself.
Lewis Mickey, STV News.
6 members of one of Scotland's largest paedophile gangs have lodged appeals against their conviction and sentences. Ian Owens, Elaine Lannery, Paul Brannan, Scott Forbes, Barry Watson and John Clark were all given life sentences after being found guilty of abusing 3 children in a Glasgow drug den and warned they may never be released from prison. 5 men have appeared in court charged in connection with large-scale disorder in Glasgow ahead of the League Cup final. Rangers and Celtic supporters clashed in the city centre before the match on December the 15th. Police made 6 arrests over the weekend after executing warrants in Glasgow and South Lanarkshire. Thomas Slavin, John Devine, Liam Coogan, Ben Milligan and Andrew Campbell all made no plea to charges of breach of the peace at Glasgow Sheriff Court. Police say inquiries are ongoing. Now, a group in East Dunbartonshire is looking to bring a 197-year-old derelict church back into community ownership. Friends of Campsie, High Kirk in Lennoxtown will acquire the abandoned church for just £1 in May. The group's hoping to turn the old place of worship into an event space for the likes of theatre, performances, meetings and concerts. The group are now on the hunt for funding to bring the project to life. Iona Brownlee reports.
This church towers over Lennoxtown, but it's lain empty and abandoned since the 1980s. The community here want to give it a new lease of life and make the Campsie High Kirk a landmark building in the foothills of the Campsies once again.
The feasibility study is the stage we're at just now. That is quite an involved process. That will take place over the next few months. We need to be at a position by the 12th of May, in fact before that, in order that we can take possession of this on behalf of the local community. It's a big project, it's ambitious, it's possibly some people might think we're slightly deluded, but you've got to think big and I think you have to take action.
Campsie High Kirk was constructed in 1828 by architect David Hamilton and sits here in the middle of the village. But after a fire destroyed it in 1984, it has since been left abandoned. It was then added to the Buildings at Risk Register in 1990 and is now deemed an ownerless building. The idea is to turn the derelict building into an open plan space. It's a big job, with plans to put on a glass roof to make the place watertight. And they want to build a suspended balcony along the inside. But the big idea is to reconstruct the clock's tower that was lost in the fire using lights.
By preserving this, it could maybe create the impetus for putting David Hamilton back in the map, back in the public consciousness. So, as an architect, I think he really is underappreciated. He's the reason that Glasgow looks the way it does and feels the way it does.
There's a real hope the project will attract more people to the village.
I think it's really important for the personality of Lennoxtown because it's a lovely place to live the way it is. We have world-class road cycling comes through Lennoxtown. We have access to the hills and the local scenery. And if we are really to take advantage of our built and natural heritage, this has to be one of the locations in Scotland where we do that.
Focus now turns to securing the future of the High Church and ensuring it remains right at the heart of the community. Iona Brownlee, STV News, Lennoxtown.
All right, sport now with Rahman, and you've all the reaction to the Scottish Cup shock at the weekend.
Absolutely, Kellyanne. What a win for Queen's Park at Ibrox yesterday. One of the best results in their history. As for Rangers, a disastrous result, and it's a result which puts renewed pressure on manager Philippe Clement.
Your window to sport. C.R. Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Good evening. James Tavernier has branded Rangers' Scottish Cup defeat to Queen's Park as unacceptable. The Championship club stunned Philippe Clement's side at Ibrox yesterday, winning 1-0. Clement insists he won't quit. Queen's Park goalkeeper Callum Ferry, who saved a late penalty, says they'll fancy their chances against anyone in the last 8. Celebrating their first win over Rangers in the Scottish Cup since 1882. Remember the name, Sebastian Droz, with the goal of his career to dump the Ibrox club out of the tournament.
What a goal! Seb Droz, who's just on the pitch!
And the result has still to sink in for the match winner. How many times have you replayed that goal?
Too many times.
Did you have friends and family at the game?
My parents and my siblings were there. They told me how happy they were, and seeing them right after the game and meant a lot.
Everybody's excited to see messaging on their phone for family members or whoever, and I've just went straight over to the speaker, put disco band on. I've just encouraged everyone to get up and try and enjoy the moment, because moments like this don't come round often in football. My voice is kind of away for the singing and dancing after the game, and as I said, it's moments like that you need to cherish in football and make the most of.
Rangers had the chance to take the match into extra time, but James Tavernier's penalty was saved by Callum Ferry.
It's vindication for all the sacrifice you make for your years and moving away from family, you know, missing parties. You know, I was supposed to put my cousin's wedding Saturday night, but obviously I had to cancel that with the game Sunday. But she said she's forgiven me now, so it's all good now.
Who'd you fancy in the next round?
Anyone really. I'm just excited to be in that next round, I think.
It's unacceptable today. Simple as that. Can't be losing a game against a championship team at home. Yeah, it's not good enough. It's simple as that. It's not good enough. We've got to be competing for these trophies, and today was shocking from all of us.
Yesterday's defeat will go down as one of the worst, if not the worst, Scottish Cup result in Rangers history. In 1967, Berwick Rangers, who were playing in a division below Rangers, rocked Scottish football, winning their first-round match 1-0. Then, 20 years later, Adrian Sprott wrote himself into the history books after Hamilton Accies, who were sitting bottom in the top flight, won their third-round clash 1-0 at Ibrox. The defeat to Queen's Park leaves Philippe Clement clinging to his job. When asked if he would quit as manager, this was his response.
No, totally not. It's nothing to do today with tactics or with putting too many other players or whatever.
Not for the first time this season, supporters are calling for a change in the dugout.
It's well beyond time for the manager to go now. I think months and months ago, everybody was calling for it. There's obviously been the protests and stuff like that, but that's just, you can't excuse that.
I've been a Rangers fan all my life, and this has been the worst team ever. Clement hasn't got a clue about Scottish football.
I don't think there's an easy fix here, Raman. We could move on with another manager, but is that going to sort out some of the obvious issues?
Well, yesterday was a disgrace, absolute disgrace, and it's a long time coming, and they should find the money to get rid of him.
With Celtic on course to win the Premiership again, the Europa League is Clement's only hope this season as he teeters on the brink as Rangers manager. News from Celtic, and Alistair Johnson says the team will be missing one of Europe's in-form players in Daisen Maeda when they face Bayern Munich in the Champions League playoff first leg. The forward scored a hat-trick as the holders thrashed Raith Rovers 5-0 to progress to the Scottish Cup quarter-finals. Maeda is suspended for the first leg at Celtic Park on Wednesday night, but Johnson says they have the quality to cope.
For crying out loud, I mean, he scored... I'm not sure what is. He's got to be one of the most informed players in all of Europe right now. He can't seem to miss right now. So yeah, again, when he's scoring and creating, he adds just another dimension. But also, everyone knows his work rate's unbelievable. He's a nightmare as a fullback to go up against, and I get the joy of having him running after me all throughout the week most of the time. So yeah, it's a bummer for us, but at the same time, that's why we brought in guys like Jota. You know, it's to have that quality.
Well, the final last 16 Scottish Cup tie takes place in Paisley tonight, where St Mirren host Hearts, while the Saints won the first league meeting between the teams this season in September. Neil Critchley's side were convincing 4-0 winners the following month at Tynecastle.
We haven't done particularly well in the cup competition so far. We've done very well in the league, and we've set standards way above what has been set previous, but the cup runs are something we haven't had. We've got a home tie against an in-form Hearts side. They'll bring a lot of fans down, big club, and we'll fill the stadiums.
You've got to be tough to play against and tough to beat, and you've got to go on the road and sometimes fight it out and scrap it out, and it's not always going to be pretty, and it's you got to go into battle, and we'll have to do that on Monday night against St Mirren.
Rugby, and Scotland fly half Tom Jordan says they're expecting a hostile atmosphere when they travel to Twickenham for their next Six Nations match after a disappointing defeat to Ireland. Gregor Townsend's men lost 30-18 at Murrayfield yesterday and now face a must-win clash with England to keep their championship hopes alive. Here's Jamie Bothwick.
Another year, another defeat at the hands of Scotland's tormentors-in-chief. Hopes of a landmark victory were quickly snuffed out by an Ireland side that simply dominated proceedings at Murrayfield.
Obviously everyone's hurting. I mean, it's tough in these weeks when you work so hard throughout the week, build it up so much, build so much belief in yourself and your team, and then you go out and you just don't perform as well as you would have liked to and come out on the wrong end of the result like that. It's a sore feeling, as you can imagine.
The men in emerald green shot out of the blocks to build a 17-point lead. Injury was added to insult when Darcy Graham and Finn Russell collided. Neither would return to the field, with Graham rushed to hospital. A flying Duhan van der Merwe try right on half-time offered a glimmer of hope, and Scotland even narrowed the gap to 6 points. Ireland simply moved through the gears to leave the Scots in the rear-view mirror.
The defeats that we've had against Ireland have shaped who we are as well. It's changed a little bit how we've played, and that's been transferred to other performances. Didn't transfer well enough today, but you've got to take the learnings out of your game. They're disappointing. Like, no one's more disappointed than me that we weren't able to go 2 from 2 today, and we weren't able to beat Ireland. But they deserve to win, and we've got to make sure that this game, but all the last 4 or 5 that we've played, are part of who we are next time we play.
The championship takes a weekend off before resuming with Scotland's defence of the Calcutta Cup at Twickenham, where they'll face an England team with the wind in their sails after a dramatic win over France.
Probably pretty hostile, and I'm sure they'll be pretty keen to get one on us, so you can imagine sort of how they'll prepare for that game, and I'm sure they'll have a bit more sting in their tackles for sure.
Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
Your window to sport. CR Smith sponsors STV Sport.
Finally in boxing, Josh Taylor has decided to move up a weight from light welterweight to welterweight, and Kellyanne will make his debut in that division in May this year.
All right, Rahman, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for that. OK, let's get your weather now with Sean.
A breezy morning will be followed up with a flurry of fresh delights for lunch. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
A very good evening to you. Good news. As said last week, we've got high pressure for the foreseeable, which means there's going to be a lot of dry weather around. The best of the brightness here in western parts, Ayrshire, Argyll and Bute, and also across the Highlands. But because it is an easterly, the temperature's staying below average for the time of year. This is Glasgow, for example, but representative really of all of us. The temperatures will be by day about 5 or 6 degrees Celsius. But by night, because there's a lot of cloud coming, especially across central and eastern areas, those temperatures staying a little bit higher than they normally would. Of course, with clear skies, temperatures would be an awful lot lower in that easterly, but with the cloud cover, temperatures 1 or 2 degrees. Cold enough, mind you, tonight, and there will be some light drizzly showers across central and eastern parts. A little bit of winteriness perhaps up over the tops of the Kilpatricks, Campsies and the Ochils, where we do see a few of those showers through tonight. But for most of us, it is largely dry with clear spells further west. Now, tomorrow again, the best of the cloud breaks across lights of Ayrshire, Argyll and Bute, the Highlands. Hopefully in eastern areas after the morning cloud and the scattered showers. It should brighten up a wee bit for Falkirk, Grangemouth and Kincardine, parts of Fife, hopefully in the afternoon. Top temperatures about 5 degrees, feeling quite chilly in the breeze, especially further east. Not much changing in the weather. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday really. We'll always hang on to more cloud the further south and east we go. The best of the brighter weather, Ayrshire, Argyll and Bute and again the Highlands. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
And finally, wild boar have been spotted roaming in the Cairngorms National Park. The semi-tame herd were seen near the village of Glenfeshie in the Highlands, not far from where the lynx were illegally dumped last month. While farmers are concerned about their chances of survival, the pigs are the talk of the town.
Caused a bit of a stir locally in the village, and you know they've been seen up in a very popular footpath. Just not the other day, I think I maybe saw a giraffe getting released up there, so who knows what's next.
Who knows indeed, but we'll keep you up to date here on the STV News at 6. And that's it from us. Good night.